Hey, how's everybody doing? Hope you're all well. Yeah, just had a few things I wanted to address here. Um, I was considering getting back to the and continuing the RICO Act primer and overview, but I think I'm going to leave that off and leave it where it's at and allow you all that are listening to take a look at it yourself and read through it. Read through the laws, the U.S. codes that are uh, um, listed there in the primer that describe the definitions and the offenses and the repercussions uh, for offenses committed. What I wanted to talk about is government responsibility. Um, Not only as if you've been paying attention, uh, is it the uh, government's responsibility to address noise issues in the area and that sort of thing, but also, according to Public Law 73-10, it's the government's responsibility to pay all debts. Um, in fact, many of us are being defrauded out of our energy and life and happiness um, because we're essentially being 100% taxed, not by the government per se, but by the corporations that we contract with. You see, when you have a contract with, well, say the municipal government for water service or sewage, that sort of thing, trash pickup. See, it's the government's responsibility to pay that debt, that bill for those services, according to Public Law 73-10. This isn't my perspective or opinion or my words. I'm going by what the law states. And it states very clearly that it's the government's responsibility to pay all debts. Since 1933, when the gold standard was taken away, and um, essentially we the people were collateralized against the debt, the federal government, the government has set up trusts for each of us to pay the debts that we accrue through our activities, uh, as well as benefit us by allowing us to acquire property. Uh, you see, the whole concept of whether it's a automobile or a house or property, whatever you want to call it, real estate. Um, no matter what you're buying, no matter what agreement you get into, if a corporation is expecting you to pay uh, fiat dollars, Federal Reserve notes, money, whatever you want to call it, it's technically not money, but um, that's what most people call it these days. So we'll just use that term so people are familiar and can comprehend what I'm talking about. Uh, because real money has been removed from our society, the government has replaced real money, gold and silver, precious metals, with Federal Reserve notes. And these are essentially IOUs. But regardless of that point, uh, when when we contract with, or I should say, when I contract with a corporation to acquire property, say an automobile finance or something like that, what's essentially happening is because at the times when I've signed those contracts, I wasn't fully aware, I wasn't fully informed of uh, business relationship and the amount of profits that the dealership would be making off of the contract. Uh, it's fraud because according to Public Law 73-10, it's the government's responsibility to pay for that debt. So when I go, let's say hypothetically, I go finance a vehicle, quote unquote, finance a vehicle. See, what happens is the dealership or the bank that does the financing accesses the SESKV trust through the U.S. Treasury, and what they do is they get paid 100% of the value of the contract. So if you buy a vehicle for $30,000 and you finance it, the finance company immediately gets $30,000 from the U.S. Treasury based on that contract, or through the process, not immediately like that day, but I think it generally takes like 45 days or so. Anyways, the finance company gets paid. They get paid by the Treasury, according to 73-10, Public Law 73-10. That debt is paid, but what they do is they double dip. They get paid by the U.S. Treasury, but then they turn around and they require payments over a certain term, and typically profit 100%, if not more, profit off of the contract. So not only do they profit off of the sale and the profit margin there off of the sale itself, but by double dipping and charging me, the quote unquote customer, the full value of the contract on top of what they were already paid, that's fraud. It's a trust fraud action because they already have gotten paid. And again, whether this is an automobile finance or a mortgage, it doesn't make a difference. The only way we're able to do business and conduct business in this manner is by way of those trusts. If those trusts weren't there, there would be no money to facilitate the business or funds, whatever you want to call it. See, this is the fraud that the corporations have been perpetrating on us, on we the people, scamming us out of our hard-earned profits, energy, life, happiness, because when I don't pay, even though they've already gotten paid by the government, which is in accordance with the law, and they were fully compensated for the property that was transferred, whether it be an automobile or a real property, real estate. They are turning around. It's blatant and outright fraud on the face of it. But if I don't pay, even though they've already gotten paid, if I don't pay them the extra, basically 100% tax on top of the profits they've already made, they threaten to take the property. And in many situations, they have. Because I wasn't fully aware of the actual contract and the fraud that the finance company and the dealership or the company, whatever at the time, whomever I was dealing with at the time, or both, decided to act dishonorably and trick me. The only way there can be a contract, well, I mean, there's certain stipulations to there being a legal contract. One of those stipulations is meeting of the minds. I cannot be held to a contract if I wasn't fully informed of the details of the contract. And this is just taking advantage. It's well, I won't get into all that, but it's fraud. It's blatant fraud. these banks, these financial institutions, these dealerships, these corporations that we contract with are ripping us off because we're not supposed to pay for anything according to public law 73-10. It's the government's responsibility to pay those debts. Because of the changes that the government made in 1933, this is the way that the government set it up. So, again, this isn't my perspective. This isn't me saying this. I'm telling you what I'm reading. I'm telling you what the federal government has set up. And if you don't believe me, I don't care. If you want to figure it out, go look up the law yourself, 73-10, Public Law 73-10. You can look up that, and you can also research the CESTUI Trust, which is spelled CESTUI space QUE space VIE. If you research what that is, that's the trust that has been granted to each of us for our benefit. That's the trust that's been established since our quote-unquote birth, and our parents registered us with the government and created the birth certificate and the social security number and all that sort of thing. See, what you don't understand is that all caps name on your license, on your birth certificate, on many government documents, that all caps name is the name of the trust. That's not you. That driver's license is not you. That's the driver's license of the trust. It identifies you as the beneficiary. That's why your picture's on it. So when you get pulled over and a cop asks for your ID and says, "Is this you?" and you say yes, you're saying that you are that piece of plastic. You're saying that you are the trust. And you have no rights at that point. It's just that simple. So I encourage you all to do your due diligence and research and validate these things that I'm talking about. Don't take my word for it. It is appalling what is going on in this country today. What we the people have allowed because of our ignorance, allowed these tyrants and criminals to get away with. These politicians who blatantly and openly act against our best interest and make excuses for it. So I encourage you all to research what I'm talking about. If you find yourself in the middle of a situation where you have an automobile or a property, a real property that you're being threatened by a finance company or a government agency or any corporation that's threatening to take that property from you, you have rights. You just need to know who you are and what your rights are. These people acting as public officials and government officials, they don't dictate to you. They can if you accept it. But let me put it this way. They don't dictate to me what my rights are. I know who I am and I know what my rights are. And no man or woman is going to tell me that I have less rights than they do. Because that's unconstitutional. And it's ungodly. It's immoral. So, with all that being said, I encourage you to consider this. Most of us have been brainwashed and programmed into thinking that it's our civic duty to be a contributing member of society and pay your taxes and pay your bills and all that kind of stuff. Well, it's just programming. It's based on a false reality. Because it's not our responsibility to pay these bills and debts. It's the government's responsibility. And I'm sure there's going to be some of you out there, haters, that want to make it sound like I'm a freeloader or I'm just looking for a handout or something like that. And what I will say to you is you are sadly mistaken. I am going by the way that this country was set up, by the laws that were established, not by popular misconception like most people, using browbeating and bullying type tactics to force people into submission or force people to think that it's the right thing to do to give all your life away to a company, make next to nothing and scrape by and struggle to keep a roof over your head or keep an automobile, transportation. It's really unconscionable. But we find ourselves in these situations and we have a choice. You can either choose to remain a slave or you can choose to be free. But with either, there are responsibilities. And if you're interested in remaining a slave, well, I don't have anything for you. If you're interested in being free, then that's a different story. And I encourage you all to look into what I'm saying so that you can be free, so that you can get out from underneath the bondage that you've created for yourselves by contracting with companies that are ripping you off because of your ignorance. They've done it to me. They've done it to millions of people. This is why the banks are so powerful, because they are making so much money, and they have so much money that, well, they can use that money to persuade politicians and lawmakers into making laws that benefit them. It's called lobbying. See how that works? So if you want to take the power away from the banks, if you want to take the power away from the government, stop giving them your life. Stop giving them your earnings. Stop giving them anything. Except maybe respect, if they're acting honorably. But if they're not, then they don't deserve the respect. So, anyways, I encourage you all to know the truth and let the truth set you free. God bless you all. Again, look up Public Law 73-10. And there are many, many other laws and statutes and so forth that you need to research. But that's a good start. That'll help get your head wrapped around the concept and comprehend this. I'll leave you with this. Know that you are not the all capital letter name that's spelled just like your name, but in all capital letters. That is not you. Period. Anything, any document, anything that has that all capital letters name on it is not you. It's referring to the trust that was granted to you, that you are the beneficiary of. So, hope you all keep your head up. Do your best to free yourselves from this bondage, this slavery. And God bless you all.